If you're like us, for a lot of years, we didn't think that retiring early was going to be a possibility for us. We had a whole lot of debt. We were later along in life, and we would work until we're 70 and take our debt to our graves.
Yeah, that's one thing I didn't want to have to do is work past, 65 and not enjoy our life after that.
We had a revelation, and that has since changed. And part of that was understanding what it would take to get to our retirement number. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is figuring out what your retirement number is, how we demolish that belief that we couldn't do it, and our plan, how we will be able to retire early at age 55, which is now just 5 years
away.
We both just turned 50. So we've got a 5-year countdown going on now. So we're really excited about it. And if you're new here, welcome to our house. And if you're returning, we're so glad you're here. I am Wendy. I am the co-founder of the House of Fi, and this is my better half.
I'm Curtis.
And we're so glad you're here.
Yeah.
As I talked about a few moments ago, when we found the financial independence community, we were in a really desperate situation. It was about 2015, we were in the middle of a move from Phoenix, Arizona to San Diego, California. We were halfway through the process of adopting 2 boys, so our second and our third adoption. And in the middle of all of that, our 4th baby was born. And it kind of just turned everything on its head. And I was also struggling with some career burnout. Now that we had the boys, I wanted to be with the boys, but I was the breadwinner as an attorney, and my income is what was servicing our humongous debt. And so we both really felt stuck. Yeah. And like there was no way out.
And don't forget, we were in 2 separate states.
Right. Yeah. So he was already here in California with my oldest son, living in a small place. And then I was in Arizona because we couldn't move the boys yet. So I was in Arizona with the 4 little ones. And at the time they were 3.5, and then 7 months and 3, and then a brand new 2-day-old baby. So it was nuts. And I would drive to California every weekend so that we could be together as a family. So needless to say, it was crazy. I was facing career burnout, but I felt stuck. And it was in one of those desperate moments that I was searching for a way that I could increase my income or create an income, but also work remotely. And during the process of that search, I stumbled upon the Mad Scientist, and he is one of the more prominent community members. And what he talked about was how he was saving at least 50% of his income. And to me, that was mind blowing. Like I couldn't grasp that someone who was in a regular job, not from money, was able to save 50% of their income. And for me, that was the light bulb to say, if someone like that is able to do it on a normal income, then why can't we? Why can't we figure that out? So to make a long story short, we got on the financial independence train and just started slashing our expenses and slowly building a plan for us to retire. And I'm the spreadsheet nerd in the family.
And I'm the more practical one when it comes down to money.
So it was on one of these 5-hour drives back from Phoenix to California, I started creating this plan for our life to be able to retire early. And I put it into a spreadsheet because I know he needs concrete information. And I presented it to him and said, look, honey, if we do X, Y, and Z, if we pay off this debt, if we increase our retirement contributions, if we start cutting our expenses, we can retire at this age. And this is how much money we'll have in the bank. I think for him, that was a moment for him as well. Right?
Yeah. Right? Yeah. When it comes down to the money and our situation, it has to be so simple for me to understand. When she mapped it out for me, it was so simple. And I just felt that, this is a path that we need to just start, heading in this direction so we can have a great retirement.
And so part of that is figuring out what your retirement is, because you don't know what your target is, your destination, without figuring that out. We needed to know what would we need to retire. And so that's what we're going to talk about first, is how do we even know how much we need to retire on? And I do just want to say that I'm talking about in the context of the financial independence community. We believe in financial independence, and financial independence essentially means that you have enough saved, that you are generating enough interest or passive income that you can live off of that, and you're not touching your principal. Now that you know that, we're going to go into the actual calculation.
So the first thing you're going to need is to figure out your estimated income that you are going to need for you or your family to retire.
Right. And so what kind of comes from that, obviously, is how much you need will be affected by how much you're spending. So it behooves you to, pay off all of your debt, to cut your expenses. You want to get your expenses as low as possible, because the lower they are, the less that you need at retirement. But also some other things are going to factor into this estimate. Things like, where do you live? Is it a high cost of living or a low cost of living? Health insurance. Will you be retiring at an age where you have health insurance, or is there a gap between now and when you're eligible for Medicare, Medi-Cal, Medicaid?
One of them. All three.
All three. Also, your debt, whether or not you intend to have your house paid off by then, or you have a mortgage. Your geo arbitrage, are you going to move somewhere so that your expenses are lower? And how many people you're going to have in our family? We're going to be in a unique situation where 4 of our 6 children will be with us when we retire, and will be with us for a while.
I hope not a long time.
That's what happens when you start over in your 40s
yes.
with children and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those are going to factor into your estimate for what you need to retire. We have a number for our family, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But just do your best. This is your best guess. Once you have that number, you're going to take that annual number and you're going to times it by 25. That's going to be your FIRE number. As an example, if you believe that your family can live on $40,000 a year, you times that by 25, and the result is $1 million. So you'll need to have $1 million saved before you can retire. That doesn't mean that you actually need $1 million in the bank. It just means that you need to be saving as diligently as you can and letting time and compound interest do its work. It may mean that $600,000 of that is your own money and the rest is interest, or it may mean $800,000. How long your retirement window is going to play a factor into that, as well as what your investments are. If you're investing like us in things like index funds, on average, you can expect an interest over time of about 8%. And that's what I use in our calculations.
So we've been talking about how an overall method is to getting to your number, but Wendy's going to talk about how we are getting to our number.
Right. And so the first step is to figuring out how much your own personal expenses are going to be. And that's an estimate. When we calculate that, we could probably live on $5,000 a month, but I think both of us, our comfort zone is closer to $7,000 a month. But before we get into timesing it by 25, we want to deduct out any other income streams that we might have, because that reduces that monthly number. So we know that we're going to have a small pension for Curtis. We have a fairly accurate estimate of what that's going to be. We also will have the adoption subsidy for the boys, since they were foster adopt children, that will go through till they're 18 years old. And that's to help us raise them and any extra expenses we might incur given their circumstances. When we take that into account, our $7,000 number reduces down to a $3,500 number. When you take $3,500 and times it by 12, you come up with $42,000. So our number is a little over $1 million, $1,050,000. Yeah. So That's still a big number to come up with in 5 years. So if I were still working as an attorney and making the money that we made as when I was working in my practice, we probably could have gotten fairly close to that number. But the problem is that I really wanted to be home with my boys, and they needed that too. And so I have retired my practice, and so that $1 million number is still fairly far off. But what I want to talk to you about now is another way to get to that fire number. All right. So if you look on the screen, you'll see that our goal is $7,000. And what I've put here is first the adoption subsidy. I first did this spreadsheet back in August. So these numbers are as of August. I also put when the goal will be reached and then if we've achieved it or not. So with the kids adoption subsidy, we know that we're going to have $2,400. We have met that goal. It's current. That's a given. So that leaves our gap to get to $7,000 at $4,600. Then Kurt will get a small pension. Right now it's at $1,100. It may increase depending on if he gets a raise or not, because the way that his pension, it's the 3 highest years of income. So he is expecting to get a salary increase probably in the next 6 months to a year. So this could change a little bit, but right now we're going to say that this is satisfied because we know that he's going to work till he's 55 when he becomes eligible for that pension. That reduces our gap to fill to $3,500. So one of the ways that we're going to fill that monthly gap is via rental income. Right now we have 5 properties. Each property cash flows about $250 a month. $250 a month times 5 is $1,250. So currently we have the $1,250 as cash flow when all of our rentals are occupied. We have made a goal of getting to about $4,000 a month in cash flow in our rentals. So we have 5 years to get our cash flow up. And so the plan is to keep purchasing rentals. What's our goal for that, babe? How many rentals should we get?
So we're thinking about purchasing 10 more rental units.
So that would be at least 2 more doors a year. Which so far we're exceeding that. We have purchased 5 properties in the last 2 years. So I think we're pretty good and on target to do that.
Yes.
So, and if you'll notice, that actually will give us more than our $7,000 a month target. It will actually give us a surplus of $500 a month. The other vehicle that we are going to be using to fill in that gap is business income. My business is the House of Fi. I've also got other projects that I'm working on. And the goal for me is to generate a couple $1,000s a month at a minimum profit for us to continue to fill that gap. I've estimated fairly low. Right now, I'm not in the black yet, so I put it at 0. But the goal is to get at least $1,500. That will actually help us exceed our goal of $7,000 and make it $9,000. So we'll have a surplus of $2,000 if this plan works and we meet our objectives. And so you should be able to replicate this. If the idea or your actual retirement number and having to save that amount is a little daunting for you and you're not opposed to considering other income streams, rental income is a good way, as well as creating a business. And, ideally, at least for me, it's something that I can do from home. So all of the businesses that I have in the works are all things that I can do from home that at some point will be fairly automated so they don't take my time and I really am retired, but give us the income that we want. So the other thing that we have to consider is that once we retire, each child, each one of our 4 boys turns 18, we will lose a portion of that subsidy. So this second chart down here is the years that the $600 falls off. All of our boys are basically a year apart. And so for 4 years, beginning in 2028, we're going to see a $600 reduction. And so for us, that means that there is a gap, a monthly gap to fill of $600. So that's another reason for this surplus up in the top chart, because we have these gaps to fill. But if let's say we didn't reach our targets, we would need, at least for that first year, to have an extra $7,200 saved. The second year, $1,200 gap, or $14,400.
For the last two, it would be an $1,800 gap, and which totals to $21,600 for the year. And then the final one will be a $2,400 one, which for the yearly income, it would be $28,800.
Right. So we can either choose to have an income stream that covers that, or have that much cash in the bank to cover those shortfalls for that year. And the reason that we stop there is that at age 59 and a half, we can begin drawing Social Security, which I don't think it's going to go away. I don't believe Social Security is going to go away. I believe that it may have some adjustments made to it, but it will be there. And if it's not, we then have also this other contingency safeguard, and that is the surplus income that we have created for ourselves.
Or make the boys pay. They're going to be old enough, they can pay for meals and everything to cover it. So there's all kind of different ways you can surplus that income for that time just to make up the shortfalls.
So there you have it. You have the two ways to figure out your FI number. So we've provided you with our FI numbers to give you an example of how you calculate that. We hope that this information has been helpful. And if you want to know more about our plans to retire in 5 years, you can take a look at the video that's going to pop up on the screen. That's it for this week. Take care, bye.
Take care, bye.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.